We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Cox, Gray,
Here.
Starkey,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Nail.
Here. Next will be a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes from the previous meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. We won't try to announce all the visitors. Roy can announce the folks as they receive their awards, and Katie's got a list of everybody for the minutes.
I think Robert's coming. That's what.
We'll move on to the Resuscitation and Survivor Awards.
I'll give brother a minute to get in here.
He's on his lunch break, trying to swing it really fast.
Want to come up here?
Yeah, I'll probably just have him talk here with me that way.
Maybe we can get it through here.
Yeah, that probably be easy. Make it easier.
Move there. That's yeah. we can get through there.
While we're waiting to see if he makes it on time, Eric won't be here tonight, but he did have a report. If you want to look over that, if there are any questions, Roy will try to answer them for you. Any highlights you want to talk about at this report?
No, we were pretty proud of some of the, it's called a Shop with the Cop event. Probably we named the Shop with the Hero event, but that's, we attended that. And I was nice, it was nice to see the community come together, the public safety community come together and help the kids, you know, shop for Christmas presents. So I think that was pretty special. I mean, that was the one highlight that stuck out for me. All right. If I got any questions. So this year, we instituted a program for awards and commendations. It was to basically highlight things that this organization, as well as our partner organizations, accomplish that benefit the visitors and citizens of Pettis County. Tonight, we have the opportunity to present some awards and accommodations to some folks that are here since this program has been established. On October 30th, 2021, a motor vehicle accident occurred on North 65, North Sedalia. Megan Bremer, who's here with us tonight, sustained serious life-threatening injuries during her care. And during her care, she had gone into cardiac arrest, which she was resuscitated by the PCAD crew with assistance from a Pettis County firefighter that was assisting them. Megan was transported by ground to University Hospital where she was cared for and since been released to home. This is remarkable because the injuries she sustained were life-threatening. Generally, people don't survive those types of injuries, especially when you factor in that she had went into cardiac arrest. The rapid response from us, Pettis County Fire, the other agencies involved, coupled with the quick actions, knowledge, and care she received on the scene, as well as the excellent treatment and care she received at University Hospital, is the reason that Megan's here with us today. We make a difference every day, but it's cases like these that let us know we're doing the right thing and let us know we're making a difference in a big way. We are honored to have Megan and her family with us here tonight, and now I'm honored to present these awards. The following awards and accommodations will be presented tonight. The first one's going to be Megan. I'll go ahead and have you come up. We're going to give you the Survivor Award in recognition of your strength and perseverance.
Thank you.
That's our one of our challenge coins.
Nice.
And you can stay up here with me.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what to do.
You're fine. I don't know if you either.
Yeah. Just go where I'm told to go.
The next ones, I'll have Dustin Hubbard and Davita Birch come up. This was the crew that actually took care of Megan. They're going to receive the life-saving accommodation. And then next, we're going to have Tom Dugan. He's a captain with Pettis County Fire. He's going to come up and he's going to get our Inter-Service Award. And basically, I'll give a brief explanation of these awards. These awards are given to individuals who use excellent judgment and went above and beyond what is expected of them, to which resulted in saving a human life. So that pretty much fits the bill. Tom? And then we'll come up this way, that way they can get a picture again. Guys, I appreciate everything you guys did.
We can hear about you guys. So.
Thank you.
I think I'm gonna speak real quick on behalf of the family. It's just overwhelming, and certainly everything you all do and boots on the ground that night was 110% perfection. And we know in the done it, we wouldn't be here, So, it's been a journey, and we're grateful. Very grateful for everything you do. So thank you. Feel good about it.
All right.
We'll let you have your meeting.
Okay, you're free to stay or go. Yep.
That ambulance right all the way up there, honestly. Please stay with us. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, why did you like, I can't remember that entire day or the entire month afterwards or in my head, it was like already open.
It's very surreal. She's lost some of her sight. And because we're working on that, she, other than that, she's do the procedure.
I tell you, the hospital, when we went there, it's like, oh, hands on that. There was probably 20 people around me. There was.
Apparently there were like 5 surgeons who never happened, which I think is crazy. More there, yeah.
I was watching. Oh my God, so many faces.
We'll go ahead and continue on with the meeting with the CFO report.
My report with the bank balances as of December 22nd versus December 9th. So as we start monthly, at the end of the month, we're down. Year over year comparison, we're up 105,000. Cash reserve balances. Again, just slightly down 5 days or so from last quarter. Any questions on this? Pages 11 and 12 are the check register. Do you have any questions on any of those transactions? The bills are on page 13 and the details are on page 11 and 15. One correction that Baxter bill is actually for an IV pump replace, not a site. Any questions on any of those? No, that is the end of this file.
Does anyone have any questions on the CFO report? If there are no questions, I'll take a motion to approve the payment of outstanding bills.
So, second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Eric's not here for the strategic planning committee.
We meet again on Thursday, I believe, so we'll have some updates next meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Move on to unfinished business, the audit bid.
On page 16, I give you a breakdown of what the bids were last time and this time, just kind of inquiring about the pricing. So the bids we got this year were in line with what we received the first time from the other bidding firm for 2018, 19, and 20. And then you just wanted to check on a typo, and that's all it was. The prices were corrected, it's just a typo on that page. So page 17 has that thing corrected in there. Yeah. Questions on this?
Recommendation for us.
Yeah, I would recommend you go ahead and approve CHB bid.
I move we accept the audit bid as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Annual claim review.
So I emailed you guys a copy of the Fitch and Associates proposal. Their proposal was 40 claims for $6,825. And then the PWW proposal was 30 claims for $5,000. So when you divide all that out, PWW is about $167 per claim, and Fitch and Associates is $171 per claim. So pretty even there. I would say the deciding factor for me is that the reason they switched from PWW to Fitch and Associates was because PWW was being very detailed in what they were writing up as being wrong. I would think we want the most detailed review we can get. So my recommendation would be PWW to go with the claim review.
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion?
Just one question.
Yes.
We could just pick random or they just? gonna pick
They do
random?
random number.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll pick, so we'll give them what our run numbers were basically for the year that we want reviewed, and then they'll do a random number generator and pick those claims, and then we give them everything associated with those claims. The dispatch notes, the PCRs, PCS, any documentation we have related to that claim.
All in favor of PWW's doing?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Property and casualty insurance.
Yes, Brooks.
Yes, we unfortunately, we kill a tree about every time we do this. There's some familiar faces here tonight, and then there's some new faces. Insurance nerd, I think James heard me. So I will talk about this stuff all night long, but in the spirit of time for you all, expedite this or drag it out as long as you want. This year, we had access. So first of all, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Christian. I'm with the Mike Keith Insurance Firm. I've just had 19 years of experience with that firm. So it's hard to believe 20 years goes by fast, believe it or not. You guys, a couple of you guys look like you might be about the same age as me, so a little older, maybe know how fast 20 years goes by. But the last 10 years, I've spent almost exclusively in public entities. Our firm specializes in public entities and fire and ambulance districts. We write over, I don't know the exact number, it's over 400 fire and ambulance districts throughout the state of Missouri. Some of those we write on a retail basis. Me here tonight representing the carrier in our firm. And then we also operate in a wholesale business where we act like an extension of the company. So somebody down in the Boot Hill of Missouri can get access to the same program that you all are buying tonight through our firm. They deal with our people, we go straight to the company. So that's a little bit about us. We developed a new relationship with some folks who are also public entity specialists. They're out of Georgia. And we reached out to them this year for your account specifically, and some other accounts, but your account specifically, just to make sure that you were still getting the best value on your insurance premiums and coverage. They have access to a few companies that we don't have direct access to. So I put together a summary here. The top two companies, those are besides Fire Plus, the other two primary companies in the ambulance space in the state of Missouri is VFIS, that stands for Volunteer Fire Insurance Services, and ESIP, which is Emergency Services Insurance Program. What we're seeing, we don't represent them, but those other folks like in the Boot Hill, they're sending us business, and we're seeing a lot of it because the ambulance segment is taking 20 to 30% increases. So we feel like we have a pretty good understanding of where they're at. Now, we didn't get quotes from them, but based on what we're seeing in the industry, even clean accounts, they're coming to us and we're winning a lot of that business because they're taking rate, they're increasing their rates. So we're seeing VFIS and ESIP come in at 20% over expiry. We reached out to a carrier called Intact, Travelers, and Hudson. All three of those didn't feel like they could be competitive. They didn't even offer us terms after they saw the program that we had put together for you. We reached out to a company called Star that when we went through this process back in 2019, they were still writing ambulances. Today they aren't. They've pulled out of the market altogether. And then we reviewed information from MoPerm before. Now we quoted terms for you with MoPerm, but we've seen them take rate increases too. We actually just beat MoPerm by 22% with the same program that you guys have. So we feel like you're still in the best place, and those companies that we did reach out to, they all declined to offer terms because of the program that you guys have today. You can see down there a little bit further where I put together the package, where the expiring and the renewal is. What we're seeing in ambulances is 10% is best in class. And you guys have had some losses. So considering the 5-year loss history for your account is 83%, we've had a couple big ones that have happened. One that's getting ready to drop off this year, but then we had the ambulance back in 2019, not your fault, but the company still had to pay out. So when you look at the total 5-year loss ratio, you guys are running at 83%. The companies really want us to be below 50. The good news is that we're seeing things trend well. Like this past year, the claims were, I've got a list of them here, they were favorable. So if we can string a few favorable years along together, that'll give us some leverage to go back to the insurance companies and make sure that they're giving us the very best. But at a 10% increase when we're seeing 20s, we feel like it was very competitive. So you can see the package pricing, which that's going to be your buildings, autos, equipment, the liability that goes along with it. Then we got a cyber. The cyber carrier that we were going to last year was a company called Beasley. They've been one of the preeminent companies in public entities. They non-renewed your account, not because of claims. It's just public entities are getting hammered with cyber events, especially cities and counties. Counties are even worse because they've got elected officials and they all are their own, they rule the roost and they all do what they want to do. They're kind of hard, even though you have commissioners, sometimes the elected officials, they're a little more challenging sometimes. Now we write a lot of counties too. Well, probably five counties that we insure. But they're targets, and they'll get the phishing emails where someone says, send me money, that type of stuff. Maybe you guys have seen something like that here. So good protocols to put in place are, and there's your IT guy back there, our network administrator. Some of the things that you can put in place if you haven't already is if you have remote access to your servers, making sure that you have multi-factor authentication, which means when you log in, when you deal with your cell phone company, they send you a text message, is this really you? And then if someone does a wire transfer, which nobody's gonna get anything past Jamie, she's very good. But if somebody asks for a wire transfer, that we have a two-factor, like we have a callback service, or not service, but a protocol. So if it looks like one of the board members is emailing Jamie to wire transfer a bunch of money, if it comes through in an email, she should be calling one of you. But I know you guys have lots of processes put in place. So like, how many steps is it now? Yeah, there's several steps. So while Beasley pulled out, not due to you, but because of the claims in the industry, the company that we were using came back with another offer at $6,950 when the expiring was 2090. So we went out to market for you, and I've got a sheet in here I can show you. We found really good terms from a company called Coalition for $2,987. That's with a $2,500 deductible. Your expiring at Beasley was a $10,000 deductible.
What was the deductible again?
2,500 versus a 10,000 that you had before. Yep. And I can tell you, so we quoted a $5,000 and a $10,000 deductible. The $5,000 deductible saved you $294.89 a year, which means to take on that extra $2,500 in exposure, you'll have to go 8.47 years without a claim. Not a good buy, in my opinion. And to go to 10,000 like you had, it's a $574 annual savings, means you have to go 13 years without a claim before you're going to make up the difference in exposure that you're taking on. Not a good buy. We did all this too on the property and auto. We went through multiple scenarios, Jamie and my team did, looking at property and auto deductibles and liability deductibles. and ultimately determined that over a 5-year period, when we look at 5 years worth of claims, the deductibles that you have today are probably still the best. Any questions about this page and the work that we did this year for you all?
Can you, sorry, what's admitted paper or not admitted? paper?
Okay.
Sorry,
So-
I can't.
That's all right, that was mine too.
Admitted paper means that the company that you're buying insurance from has to file their rates with the state of Missouri. They are subject to the guarantee fund, and there's one other thing that makes it a better deal for you. Non-admitted, they don't have to file the rates, so they can do some things behind the scenes. They're not subject to the guarantee fund. The guarantee fund is if the company goes insolvent, you can apply to the guarantee fund to have them pay claims. So when you can buy an admitted product, it's probably better for you to buy an admitted product. And the difference between the admitted and non-admitted, while we're on this topic, was $160. So this is the cyber. And you'll see on there, there's multiple options. We won't spend a whole lot of time here. Unless somebody has a question. So if you want to flip to the first page that has, I think she highlighted it for you, it should look like this. You'll see the first column is the coalition product, non-admitted. You're almost there. There you go. And you can see down there at the bottom, the pricing. $2,823. The admitted product is $2,987. In our opinion, that's an easy decision. Go with the admitted paper for an extra $160 or whatever that equates to. Oh, I'm sorry. I brought copies for everyone. Hey, Ron.
Don't forget the media.
Okay. Do you want a copy too? Okay. I'm sorry, Mike. I got going. I thought you guys could go back there. Any questions about the cyber?
You guys got a couple, what's the difference between inside and outside? It's like on the second section, down.
Breach,
Yeah,
cost
breach cost.
inside, outside.
Yeah.
Well, it will probably tell us. This document is actually pretty fascinating. If you guys want to read through all the things that can happen to you at some point, not right at the moment. We were telling someone here.
It's right there underneath it. Will the breach cost erode the aggregate limits inside or separate outside? I'm not sure what that means, but
I have to imagine that that's either a breach to your system or to like a managed service provider that somehow you become liable for, but it's not showing me. I can get an answer for you.
It speaks about breach coach. Under facts. Page numbers top right side of 14. One place I can breach so far.
Would it be all right if I get an answer for you and get back?
There it is.
This is your package renewal. And I'll be able to make this part fairly painless. So the primarily the increases came out of the auto, and we're seeing that across the country, industry wide, not just for ambulances, but for every industry. Auto continues to go up. The cost of medical goes up. The cost of repairs on vehicles are going up. The cost of your vehicles are going up. Every time you guys put a new ambulance on, it seems like they just keep getting more and more expensive. And the cost of legal hasn't gone down either. So every time we get into an accident and we're liable, or we get into an accident, we have injuries involved, and those costs just go into the factors for the auto rates. But I will make this as simple as possible because there's quite a few pages here. But the first page here talks about the total insured values. You guys have $2,792,525 for all of your property, and that is a rating basis. So if at the time of loss, you really have $3 million in total building value, this program is on a guaranteed replacement cost basis, which means we don't care what it costs. This is a rating basis. This is how we're using the rates to develop the premium. At the time of loss, we're going to pay whatever it actually takes to rebuild your buildings. It's on a blanket basis. You have a blanket coverage extension that includes business income and extra expense, blanket coverage for all your portable equipment and your mobile equipment. It's got earthquake and flood zone or flood coverage up to the total insured amount. You have a $500 property deductible on all things except for wind and hail, where they have a $1,000 deductible. I would expect at some point that's going to go up. Missouri's become a wind and hail state, as you guys 2 weeks ago. We had them go through on the east side of the state. There's no co-insurance on this policy. It's guaranteed replacement cost on all your real property and business personal property and your portable equipment, replacement cost on commandeered. If you flip to the next page, this will be a breakdown of the buildings. And every year I come out and sit down with Jamie, Roy, and Eric. And 1 year, John, or maybe 2 years, John got involved. And we go through these buildings in detail, making sure we've got adequate insurance on them. Now, I told you a minute ago that this is a rating basis, so we just need to make sure that it's close. It's supposed to be insured to 100% the value. But if inflation, like this year, for instance, who knows what it would cost? Having a guaranteed replacement cost product, I would think would be a good peace of mind for the district. Flip to the next page. This is a blanket portable equipment, $850,000. With some leased, borrowed, and rented and miscellaneous equipment. And the next couple pages are just coverage definitions. You've got a property enhancement. The crime, you'll notice that the crime, there's no coverage selected because you purchased a separate crime policy. The general liability, same coverage that you've had forever, which is $1 million per occurrence, 10 million in the aggregate, and then we put a excess policy on top of it, also known as an umbrella policy, to where you're ultimately buying $5 million per occurrence, 14 million in the aggregate. When we get to public officials, that includes the decisions that you all make, including employment-related questions or decisions that you all make. And you've got the same 4 million per occurrence, 5 million per occurrence, 14 million in the aggregate. There is no cyber liability included here because we already talked about the cyber. It's going to be with Coalition. You can take our recommendation. The business auto, you have the broadest form of coverage you can get, which is a symbol 1, which means any auto. That includes hired and non-owned autos. And then this program goes above and beyond. It's got coverage for your members, primary coverage, liability, physical damage. commercial excess for 4 million. And then we get into the list of vehicles, and Jamie does a good job of keeping us up to date when you're buying, selling. Looks like we had 2 new, 2 or 3 new. 3 new ones. 2021 E450, 2022 AEV X Series ambulance, and another 2022 AEV X Series ambulance. You all have historically included terrorism. The terrorism charge is $223 a year. That's already included in the 147,779, which is your renewal. Any questions about the property and casualty fees?
I did just verification with regard to our property that's not directly on site. Do we include any consideration for anything that's been purchased for the 911 center? Ours is down there that we need to worry about. Okay, very good. That's all I have. Thank you.
This is the crime policy, and it's real easy. Coverage stayed the same, deductibles stayed the same, pricing stayed the same. A company called Zurich. $500,000 for employee theft, $100,000 for forgery and alterations, $5,000. Now, this part, inside, outside, I can tell you what that means. That's robbery inside or outside the premises, whether they're coming inside your building or if you have a courier taking money, which is kind of a thing of the past, going to the bank and they rob you outside the premises. Now, the breach response, that was something that I'm not anybody asked me that question yet, so I haven't. Cyber is still relatively new and evolving. You've got money orders and counterfeit paper and currencies of 100,000 and paid full performance of 500,000. Any questions on the crime?
I just have a question. How long have you guys had our insurance?
I want to guess 20 years.
So when we had our incident,
2013.
yeah, I was gonna say. So when we had our incident, was any of that covered by the insurance policy?
Which one are we
Yes,
talking about?
The $623 policy right here is the one that paying half of that.
For, okay, for, with the former record, okay.
About 495,000. Yeah, they covered all the losses except for the deductible.
Okay.
And it was a slow process, but they also had questionable variances. Number 5 from the accident at
Yes,
911.
different. Yes, so that was in 2019.
Right.
Yes. So we also paid for a $230,000 ambulance. And I've got the loss runs here if somebody wanted to look through them. There was a sizable one on your 17 year, and there was a sizable one in 19, and then we've had a few other things in between. But it's trending like 20 and then 21 have been trending well. So that's good. And you guys run a tight ship here. So some of the things that have happened have been, well, you buy insurance. It's not from lack of controls or anything like that.
And Kristen, how many other districts do you do business with?
Well, directly, I want to say around 100. Indirectly, it's 400 or 500 throughout the whole state. So we feel like if there's an expert in the industry, it's us. Now that's, we have to be careful when we say that. I mean, we can help you cover all the known knowns and the known unknowns. The unknown unknowns are very tough. And when I stand up here and tell you I'm an expert, you know, that holds me to a higher level of care. But I also feel like it makes us more qualified to handle your all's insurance needs than any other. I mean, we've got a dedicated team with 7 people. But that's all they do is public entities and nonprofits, where most insurance firms that are going to come in here and want to solicit your insurance, they might go do a contractor, and we do contractors too. We've got a client, I think, Mr. Mullins. Mr. Mullins is one of our producers and works with Mike here. You know, our firm handles a lot of different things, but we have a dedicated team that only does public entities and nonprofits. So they're not trying to do a contractor and then a manufacturer and then a shoe store and then deal with a public entity. It's just public entity, public entity, public entity, public entity, maybe a nonprofit in there. So efficiency. I know we covered a lot. I had a lot of paper to go through. It may not have been my best presentation, so I apologize. Are there any questions about what we discussed here this evening? Are there any questions about the market research that we did on your behalf, that we're not just bringing you the same old premium and expecting you to pay it? We went out and beat the bushes for you all.
So I'm familiar with Beasley. We've had to deal with them at my business for a while. I worked at hospital. And familiar with them. So Coalition on paper, is that a good company?
We've not had a whole lot of experience with them, but when you look at the summary here, and you go down the list of different coverages between, you know, Tokyo Marine is on this list. They, a couple years ago, were the best one you could buy. I mean, they were not only the best coverage, but they were the best pricing. So when you go through, this is a really nice summary, and it shows you all the differences between them. We feel like, you know, for the coverage that you're getting, an A+ superior company, we feel like it's a good place to be, and the pricing was good too.
And I know a lot of the companies are getting out of the liability insurance, and things like that.
Cyber liability.
No, just liability in general. Because dealing with physicians that had coverage
Oh,
in these
yeah.
companies.
In the hospital
Yes.
arena, yes. Yeah, it's
They're
very
going
difficult
out, yeah.
to get med mal. The hospital plan tends to be a popular place for a lot of the medical malpractice.
Just last, I have a curiosity, these top two on your summary of the marketing. The public entities that kind of specialize, you said one's emergency services.
Mhm.
Why are they so out of sync here with regard to pricing? I'm just curious.
I think part of the reason is that the marketplace has gotten beat up. So because you've had so many competitors in the state of Missouri, you now have Intact, well, all these companies.
Right.
And when they're all trying to get a stake, and they're trying to get to critical mass is what they need. They need to get to critical mass so that they can sustain losses.
Right.
Well, the only way you can get to critical mass, you can't be a new player coming into the state of Missouri and have prices just like everybody else. Nobody's going to buy it. So they come in and they undercut the pricing. Now, that's not what ESIP and DFIS has done. I think they've tried to stay in the game by competing with some other companies that are undercutting the marketplace. And, you know, it's very difficult. It's easy for me to say, it's very difficult for a client to see this, but when a client purchases a brand new product into the state of Missouri that is underpricing the market to gain market share, essentially what's happening is that company won't be able to sustain that. And by purchasing that, I know you're saving 20% on the price if that scenario were to happen. But ultimately what it does is the mature products that are in the state, ESIP, BFIS, Fire Plus, Fire Pack, and you're with Fire Plus, then they end up hemorrhaging some of their good business.
Right.
It hurts both, ultimately, is what ends up happening. But it's a really difficult discussion to have when you come out and, you know, if a competitor comes in the door, if we bring something to the table, it's 20% less, it's hard to leave that money on the table. Now, you guys had an option a few years ago, and I've got the whole summary here from a company called MoPerm. MoPerm's Missouri Public Entity Risk Managers, and you would basically be cutting your coverage. I shouldn't say in half, that's not a fair statement, but there are some differences that we would really need to look at. I had a 2-pager with red all over it, if you remember that. They're quite a bit less, but you're getting quite a bit less. So these folks also, 2 years ago, they were run by marketing arms. So BFIS was a marketing, it's actually, I'm not gonna get the company name right, American Alternative. It's now been bought by AIG, and AIG took the program back. So they took it away from the marketing arm, the VFIS people. And then ESIP is very similar. It was run by an organization called McNeil and Company. McNeil and Company had what we call a pen. They had the ability to write the policy basically, or the company said, here you go, here's your parameters. You can write policies within these parameters. They had the pen to actually issue policies. But then their company bought them back, and it's American Alternative or one of those names too. Can't remember exactly. I could find out for you if you really want to know.
No.
But when we saw that happen, when the big companies came down and sucked them back out.
AIG is huge.
Yeah, they're huge, but they also, this is small for them. And if the losses aren't trending well, it's nothing for them to come in and increase the pricing. And that's what we've seen them do in the last couple of years. Actually, this year is the year that we've seen both ESIP and VFIS, 2 years after they were acquired, or not acquired, but the marketing arms still exist, but they don't have control anymore. The mother companies took all the control back. So we knew there were gonna be some changes. It's now been 2 years. We expected it to be around 2 years, and like clockwork.
There it is.
Yeah, and we're seeing the pricing go up. And it's probably, they're gonna have a good correction. They'll take this rate. There'll be carrier companies that have been with them for 100 years, and they're not gonna move.
Right.
They're gonna just absorb the loss or that increase in premium. But they like that brand name, and it'll eventually help that carrier become healthier. But we feel like our pricing is in a good place. Even with a 10% increase, we feel like we're 20% under those guys.
Right.
And our loss ratio's been reasonable. It's not been, it's been tough. The ambulance industry is tough. I mean, when we have a claim, it's a big one. You guys don't have a lot of claims, but when you do have a claim, like a medical claim, we paid in 2013, we paid a $5 million, the company paid a $5 million med mal claim. Terrible situation, but when they happen, they're big. So the premiums over the long run, if you look at 10 or 15 year, the premiums that they're charging, they've probably been underpriced for the last 10 years, would be my guess, just because it's so competitive. We also do water and sewer.
Where that 2013 claim was at.
Excuse me?
What was that 2013 claim at?
That wasn't on this. That was on, well, it was on the crime, so that Zurich product.
The $5 million.
Excuse
That had
me.
nothing to do with this district.
No, nothing to do with this district.
Clarify.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. No, it was a district over in Warren County.
Thank you.
And they had it was basically a dereliction of their ministerial duty. They showed up on the scene and they didn't follow the proper protocols, and there were some significant medical issues. I don't know if it would have ended up in a death or just severe medical issues after the fact. And it took, that started in, I think, 2011, and it wasn't 13, I think it was 15. I think it took like 5 years.
It's quite quick.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can talk about this all afternoon, John.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, anytime. If you guys want to talk about the industry or the products that you have, or get down in the weeds with some of the questions that you've got, I'm happy to do it.
I'm gonna switch my question over to Ryan. So multi-factor authentication, is that a requirement of this?
It will be, yeah. And I think we've already filled out the application.
How many
for Coalition.
people have access to the internet or email from outside?
We're not talking about that all the time.
Okay,
Feel free to ask me.
sure.
Yeah, we filled out an application.
So you had to go through and fill out all
And that may not be something specific to Coalition, but that's what we're seeing.
it's just humans picking the wrong email is the biggest risk.
That's exactly right. If you get an email and it has a link, don't click it. Yeah, here we see. This one's not, we did complete it, so this was the application. All right, of course. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I would submit this for your PNC insurance renewal.
So is there a motion to approve that renewal?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion, and that's at the price of 151,389.31. Is that correct?
That's with the $2,500 deductible.
I'll make that motion with that clarification, or second that.
Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay, I need some signatures here.
Can you give your last name?
Yes, Delosier, DE, capital LOZIER.
What is your title of your company?
Oh, I'm technically vice president. I don't feel like it all the time. I'm a producer.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna need some signatures here. So make sure I get-
So all in all, the insurance only went up like 10.8, over 10.8%.
And the majority of that's in the auto.
Right.
And that's just the auto industry, the auto insurance across the board is going up.
That's reasonable.
Plus we added a couple of vehicles.
We fight very hard to keep your pricing as stable as possible. We know you guys have a budget to work on. I think I got it right here. My sign.
Yes.
Okay, everywhere there's a sticky note, and it's all things we've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it still $10 a signature?
That wind and hail covered, that's going crazy.
It's going up. That's why your $1,000 wind and hail. We'll take it as long as we can get it. What we're seeing the industry go to a percentage. And when it does that, it's a percentage typically per building and per contents. And, you know, it doesn't seem like a lot. You got $100,000 building, well, that's $1,000, 1%. Got $1 million building, 1% is a lot. That's a big deductible. And we've got, you know, some properties that'll have $5 million building value. And you're looking at a $50,000 deductible. That's significant, and it's per building. So as long as we can get the $1,000 deductible, we'll take it. I say we, because I'm suggesting that you should take it. That's what we're going to offer you.
How's Mike doing?
He's doing good. Yeah, still working every day. We keep trying to get him to slow down a little bit. He won't do it. He doesn't have any hobbies. We need to help him get a hobby. His hobby is work. He's probably at a meeting tonight. I know we got 2 tomorrow night. He's got to have me cover one so he can go to one other one. And then that's the terrorism. So you're gonna have to say, I hereby elect to purchase. Feel like you're buying a house? Well, I thought I was gonna go through this quicker. I'm sorry I took this much of your time.
Jamie said you take longer, so I appreciate it. I'm kidding.
But you guys, you're spending a lot of money.
Right.
And for me to come here and just whiz through it real quick, I wouldn't feel like I'm doing you justice. But at the same time, I want to be respectful of your time. So at any point, it's getting too long, just.
Well, no, I mean, it's important we understand, protecting the taxpayers' assets the best we can and we'll leave none of the way. So this is well worth the time.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate your all's continued business and trust in us, and Jamie and anyone else knows how to get in touch with us. Anything else, but. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We'll move on to set ALS and BLS rates.
Page 18 has our current rates. These rates have been in place, I believe, since 2017 was the last time the rates changed. And I had given you guys in your packet just some other area district rates, which you can see they're all over the place. So it really should be based on what the costs are. So in 2020, our average cost per transport was $965.90. So you can see we're barely covering cost if we recoup the entire rate, which we very rarely receive the entire rate. So. What questions you guys have?
I review some of these rates and these things, and I see on them that they have a fee that they're charging outside, obviously, of the billables with the insurance company, rates for like non-transport just showing up. And I just like to comment on that, I thought about us doing that because we do show up a lot of places, but really in reality, we probably wouldn't get paid for doing that. We just wouldn't. But other counties are doing it, and with regard to the other information, it's there's surrounding districts that charge actually to show up at a fire standby. So I think we're pretty reasonable with our rate structure. That is just a 5. So.
We talked about that, I think, the last track.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember. I can't remember if that was there. But to me, it makes sense if I like to see these charges for the other ones, because especially when they were saying, sometimes you get called to the same address all the time. So what happens if, on the third time you start charging, or whatever time it is, because it's just a matter of, sometimes it's just the patient just being falling down, and or like I think it was you, Roy, that was saying you just moved them from upstairs to downstairs. And we're doing that for free. And it's the same frequent call. If you put a charge to that, maybe they wouldn't do that, And our liability, we just went through our insurance. We're liable if they drop the patient or whatever. And here we're just moving them from upstairs to downstairs.
And we're liable from the time the vehicle leaves the station here to get to their
So,
property.
I can see why they do charge. A lot of those charges weren't, they weren't outrageous, but at least there's a charge attached to it, and maybe you won't get those calls to move somebody from upstairs to downstairs. That's just my thought.
Well, that data is interesting from the surrounding districts that Jamie provided for us, that, there are additional ways that other districts are gaining reimbursement. Whether they actually, realize the dollars or not, because the insurance company is not going to pay on that. It'd be out of pocket for the patient, so. But it's just worthy to mention that, that reimbursements are not just limited to the 5 that we have here that we use on page 18. So.
Is there a motion to approve those rates?
Well,
Go ahead.
I have another question. On the medical records, most of the other districts around here charge for medical records. How many requests do you get in a month or a week?
Not very many. I mean, it's kind of one of those cyclical things. We won't have any for 3 months and then we'll have 10 in a week. You know, it's hard to say, but I bet overall, I don't know, probably 100 a year. And frankly, all we do is give it to the billing company and the billing company takes care of it. We don't do anything.
And the billing company doesn't charge for it, or? And the reason why I ask that is because most times the people that are asking for these are gonna be attorneys. So I don't see why we shouldn't charge a record fee, you know, $20 or whatever. Whatever, I think there's legal requirements around that,
There is, and that's part of the reason we haven't done it in the past.
but I
Because
think,
there's certain people you can charge, certain people you can't charge.
right. But I think that we should look at establishing records fee for that as well. That's just my thought.
Just with regard to us adopting these rates, if we were to adopt rates tonight, is there anything that would prevent us from reviewing these rates at a later time? And then,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the rate increase of 5.1%.
We're not increasing anything, it's the same rate.
Right.
Just be a-
But correct. But the rate increase for Medicare rates would realize us that.
Yeah, which is sorry, approved by Congress.
Right.
Is there a second?
Well, I got confused. I thought we were raising at that point.
No,
That's.
our
That's-
rates are the third column over the rate. That's the same rates we've had since 2017.
And your recommendation is we just leave them as they are.
I mean, if I were to say something just out there, these rates really don't matter to what we get.
That's correct.
They really don't.
So are you approving the third column?
Yeah,
Base
20.
rates, yeah.
Yeah. It's basically a no increase.
The rates remain the same.
So is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion that we don't increase our rates.
Is there any further discussion?
I would like to, at some point, research what it would do to do both the non-transport and the medical records fee. This is another source of income, especially the medical records fees, most likely isn't coming from a patient, it's coming from the attorney's office.
Right. And that third time the charm thing was something to do. As far as making trips.
Any further discussion? Not all in favor of keeping the rates the same, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Since we have no new business, are there any announcements?
Yes, sir. On the 24th, I received an email from a friend because he knew I was on the PCAD board. He had received an email from somebody that knew of an incident where the gentleman was transported by PCAD from their dwelling to the hospital because they had the flu and a heart attack. And the doctor at the hospital wanted him to go to Boone County to get some tests done. And the family was under the impression that we had told them that we didn't have an ambulance available until 3 o'clock on the 24th. Well, the daughter of this gentleman, you know, got him in the car and took him over there. And she was very upset that what she thought was truism wasn't, because I got an email yesterday that said that she apologized. She was all off on the facts of what really happened. And the ambulance district had nothing that they did wrong. Well, when I came down to the station, Jamie and Eric, what's Eric's last name?
Myers.
Eric Myers and Katie were there. And I told them about this, and I just want to say, I want to compliment all three of them. They did a very good job helping me understand what they look at when they get somebody that says something like that. And I was just very pleased with professionalism and their thorough knowledge of, because it happens quite frequently from what I understand, that people, I mean, and they're in a very emotional situation with family member in dire straits, and they jump to conclusions a lot of times that they shouldn't. So anyway, I just wanted to make note that I appreciate the way that they helped me and got me off the ledge. Because it was upsetting to hear what these people had written. And I thought, man, I gotta go talk to somebody. So anyway, that's.
Thank you. Are there any further announcements?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say thank you to the board for the work we've done this year to survive so far the wave of COVID that we've dealt with. And I'd like to thank our leadership and our folks out there, our EMTs and our paramedics for their dedication in 2021. I'd like to wish everybody happy new year.
Anything
You
else?
all have a-
Yeah.
If there are no further announcements, I take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I'd like to second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.